It gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker and chair for today, Monica Rana. She is the Additional Secretary for Monitoring and State Program Officer in Delhi State Health Mission. So I request you, ma'am, to please come and present the keynote address.
Everybody, it's indeed a great privilege and pleasure to be here today with all of you. I am Dr. Monica Rana, as I've already told you, an Additional Secretary Health in Delhi, and also looking after various programs under NHM. So first of all, let me clarify, I am just a doctor and I don't have much experience of research. And in the morning when we were, I attended that presentation, and I was a part of that discussion in the morning. I mean, I could hear it. So there were so many things which you all are going into and at such great depth. So my only research I did was when I was doing my post-graduation in pediatrics, and that was how many tablets of iron and how frequently to be given, and twice a week therapy is as effective as daily therapy. So that was the kind of research I was engaged in, and after that all we've done is firefighting. That is, whatever is told to us, we just jump into it and start doing. So we really need evidence which will help us to keep pegged to the ground and come up with things which are more implementable. So without wasting any more time, I'll just start with my presentation. See, we've been talking of urban health, and in Delhi, Delhi is 97.5% urban, and whatever is left is also semi-urbanized. So we are all urban, and urban health is a very, very, very complex issue because it has many other added elements which make the task of the health care implementers that much more difficult. So what are the main differences? Because I'll only be setting the kind of a tone for the speakers. I'm not here to give you any a detailed kind of information on the subject. So urban milieu, as what I have experienced as a planner and an implementer over past say 10-15 years, mainly it is what are the things which are different? That is the urban milieu, which is different from that of a rural environment. The disease patterns, prevalences, and the outcomes, they are different. And above all, the challenges which the planners face when they are trying to plan and implement healthcare for the urban populations. So environment, even at the cost of repetition, I have stated it here because yesterday we were discussing when we talk of health, we always talk of what a healthcare person is going to be doing. But the main part is the determinants of health. 80% is that job and 20% is what the health guy is going to pitch in. So unless we take care of those 80% things, whatever we might do, we may move heaven and earth, we will never really attain the goals we set out for ourselves as health planners or healthcare deliverers. So these are the things which really nobody seems to be looking at. For instance, when we were doing this NHM and all, and when we were putting down things together, one person who always eludes us in all our projects is the sanitation guy or the save water availability guy. So they are not a part of that whole system which is out there to deliver health. So unless they come on board, unless they are made as much answerable in each project, when we are talking of health, unless that person is sitting there amongst us and he's able to respond, yes, in this particular community, I have assured, or in this particular population, I have assured safe drinking water, or I have my sanitation thing is working here and everybody has access to a good, sanitation facility. So otherwise, if we, as the sir was saying yesterday from NHSRC, that the tap is open and you keep mopping and saying that I'm trying to keep the floor dry. So we are not going to reach anywhere unless these determinants are taken care of. So I'm not going to go through the list because I also have limited time. Then burden of diseases, earlier it was dual burden of disease, now it's triple burden of disease. So in that sense that the factors which are operating in the urban milieu, they are leading to these kind of disease patterns which are, let us say, more than what we encounter in a traditional rural setting. There's the communicable diseases plus non-communicable diseases, stress-related mental disorders, trauma and accidents, victims of violence and crime, alcohol and substance abuse, and many occupations which are being undertaken, which are available in the urban setup. They come with their own set of problems, morbidities. And coming to the challenges to the urban healthcare planners and implementers, on which I'm going to be focusing basically. Now these things may seem very, very mundane to you. Like, look, everybody knows this. Now what is new in this? But then these are the things which prevent us from actually being able to address the healthcare delivery systems in an urban setting. Multiplicity of healthcare providers. That is one very important pain area for us, and it must be there in all the cities, the major cities. This must be the problem there also. Now a person might say, look, you have that much more, you can deliver more efficiently, but that is certainly not the case. So for example, in Delhi, I would like to bring to your attention, we have the government health facilities, we have the municipal corporations who are delivering health, we have the central government health system centers which are delivering healthcare. Then we have New Delhi Municipal Corporation, we have grant-in-aid NGOs, non-grant-in-aid NGOs, we have autonomous bodies, that is railways, ESI, Jal Board, we have private hospitals and nursing homes. So if you see the numbers, huge number of these facilities are there. But the biggest problem is they are all working in silos. The coordination amongst them is not as it should be. So that is again a very, very big challenge for us. They don't have different geographical, of course, railways, ESI, CGHS and Jal Board, they have their catchment populations, but otherwise Municipal Corporation of Delhi, which is one of the major players along with the Delhi government, we don't have any geographically distinct areas of jurisdiction, so that you are taking care of this particular population and the Delhi government facility is taking care of this particular population, so they are looking at them. No, it's not like that. So they are situated co-terminus. I mean, you may even have a scenario where in the same building you have a Delhi government health facility on the ground floor and you have a municipal corporation health facility on the first floor. So these kind of scenarios also exist. Now the second problem being, one is the control, so there is no coordination. Second is that geographically also there is no demarcation. We may be working in the same lane, although we belong to different health agencies. The second important problem is that functionally and structurally we are heterogeneous. We are not on the same platform, in the sense certain facilities are delivering only certain services. Some of them are delivering a comprehensive, curative, preventive, promotive package, but then we have MNCW centers of MCD which are substantial in number, which are giving only mother and child health care. So they are not having the national health programs being implemented there. So in this case, if that facility is occupying a certain population or taking care of a certain population, we cannot actually claim to say that that population is being taken care of, because the curative services are not there, the national health programs are not there, so that population is in the true sense not being covered. So but they are in a significant number of them is there. So say 150 facilities, which is a great huge number. So we cannot just say, okay, we'll open, the Delhi government will open the centers all across the state, and not consider them, because that kind of resource is not available, and nor is it feasible to be, duplicating the efforts, because that has its own set of problems. So this is one thing. Then as you can see here, this shows you this yellow is the total health centers. I've shown it district wise, but if you see the green facilities are the ones which are giving curative and preventive. Your blue ones are only giving curative. So these are the kind of the distribution that is there, though the yellow bars are very tall. but actually that is how they get fragmented down the line. Then inequitable distribution. We have so many facilities, but as the city and the habitation has spread out, the facilities which were opened, they were opened very fast, you know, in the earlier years. But the pace of the growth of the city has been much more than the pace at which the new facilities have been set in. So although we have a huge number, but they are all concentrated in the central parts of the state. Then another thing is there is no population allocation. This is again a problem of urban scenario. And what happens in a rural state, you have those, like in this case you can see there are these pockets of population. So supposing if there is a place called Fatehpur Beri, you know, which is the ANM, which is the PUHC, or you have a village called Sirtapur, you know exactly which ANM is looking after it, which is the ASHA, which is the primary health center which is attached to it. But the scenario in an urban a city or a state is like this. Now this is a 4 lakh population and back to back, lane to lane, you know, and there is no kind of demarcation, and here you would be requiring at least 4 to 6 primary urban health centers. But there is no population attachment as such. See, the patients can go anywhere, but as far as the health care delivery people are concerned, they have to have a definite catchment area where they have to take care of the outreach, implementation of national health programs, all the preventive initiatives that we are taking. So this is the kind of scenario which we have in urban, state or a big city. So it makes our task that much more difficult. So what happens is it becomes very difficult for us to plan. It becomes very difficult for us to kind of pinpoint the responsibility unless these catchment areas are defined. So some efforts have been made by the government. We have tried to address some of these problems. That we have decided on a common minimum service package, that each health facility, before we can claim that it is there looking after that particular population, has to follow a common minimum service package. Now this service package has been listed out or formulated in consultation with MCD, which is our greatest partner. But now the challenge is, now they also have 3 municipal corporations. So to actually get them to adopt this and to work towards making all their health facilities who are catering to a certain defined population rise up to that level. So to plan and to upgrade them, that is again a challenge which somebody has to, we are trying that in a kind of in a kind of using a dialogue, and going in, our secretary going and meeting the commissioner and trying to persuade and all those things. But unless a stronger kind of a push comes, this continues to be our problem. And mapping all the health facilities, mapping the catchment areas, the state has to an extent done this. It was a very difficult exercise because now we have got on board on a portal which can be logged in, and it's a web-based portal where you can see exactly which facility is looking after which population. The description and the numbers are there. Numbers from the census data, but the ANM survey can be put in there to put the real, numbers, the real-time numbers. So that kind of exercise has been done. Catchment areas of health facilities have been mapped, and the areas of responsibility of each ANM have been mapped. So they are also defined there. Earlier, for 10 years, we were doing RCH, but you can't really do RCH unless each ANM has her area mapped out clearly. Now, this is my 10,000, 12,000 population. So if a woman with 4 gram hemoglobin dies tomorrow, I should know exactly which was the ANM responsible for that area, which was the ASHA responsible for that area, and which health center medical officer is looking after that particular area. If a woman has been living in that area, and she conceived there, and she was there for so many months, and still she dies of 4 gram hemoglobin, then somebody has to be held accountable. And for that you have to have the catchment areas in place. This is a very big challenge, which may seem very mundane when you are talking of things, but this is one of the major bottlenecks that we have. Then rationalize the existing health centers and open new wherever required, as we've seen. And now this again is another achievement of ours, that what we have done is the MCD people now, before opening a center, they ask us, do you have a center there, or are you planning a center there, so that we don't do a duplication. And secondly, even the Delhi government, when the proposal comes, this catchment area is referred to before they sanction a new center. So those kind of mechanisms have to be put in place. Then you have to also, the state has to take a call on this, that okay, MCD is the owner of their own facility, Delhi government is the owner of their own facility, but on monitoring and HMIS platforms and quality assurance platforms, we all will speak one language. So these are the minimum benchmarks to which all of us will conform. So that is the kind of thing, when we cannot merge, we have to converge effectively. So these are the kind of things which we have to keep in mind if we want to make our urban health implementation a success. This is, I'm just showing how we've done it. Now this kind of catchment area is there. Now incomplete HMIs, again, when you have multiple players, you don't have the true picture of the state, because we have a huge, as I already listed out the various healthcare providing agencies, we have again made a headway in that the HMIS which we are having now, all the MCD facilities, all the Delhi government facilities, all the CGHS facilities, ESI facilities, railway facilities, they are all reporting on that HMIS platform. So that is giving us some substantial chunk of information. I'm not saying that it is totally complete or the quality is very good, but at least now we have some kind of a handle on what is going on in these organizations. But private is not a part still. So that again, when we are talking of the morbidity patterns and also that huge chunk is being missed out, so we cannot really talk about, you know, where we are. So that lacuna is also there. This is again an outfall of multiplicity of agency. Now probably with this Clinical Establishment Act, which is we are also working on in Delhi in a different way, this will be some kind of a mandatory checkpoint will be there, where they will have to give us some information on the state portal. Then absence of referral linkages and hierarchies. This is again a very big problem in urban settings. This is again an area of great weakness. And we've been crying on this for years and years, but still we haven't made much headway in this. So the one reason being the primary healthcare facility has to provide everything, I mean, which should be provided at a primary level. So if you're not able to do that, people will go directly to the hospitals, and hospitals will get overburdened. So that is one thing which is happening, and it must be happening in most of the cities. Another thing which kind of promotes this is, one is this lack of complete facilities at the primary healthcare. Second is the proximity, because the hospitals are so much more accessible and easier to reach. They all try to rush to hospitals. In the process, our secondary care is suffering, in the sense the quality goes down. When a person who should be looking at the high risk is 80% of the job is being to look at the, you know, people who could have been handled at a primary healthcare level. So that much more effort they have to put in, and that 20% high risk gets lost in that. So that again is an important contributor to our morbidity and mortality. Now this again, the government, the current government has again come up with an initiative of trying to take the OPD based secondary and the specialist care to the nearer to their homes, so that they don't have to really come to the hospitals, and the hospitals are able to concentrate more on the indoor patient care of people who really need specialist care. So this we are having polyclinics. The aim is to open more than around 150 clinics, but at present 23 have already become functional, and we are experimenting with how we can, you know, streamline and fine tune the polyclinic setup right in the heart of the community. Then another thing which we find in urban setting is a huge private sector, which is a blessing also and which can be a pain also. Blessing because we can actually harness them in various ways to help us deliver a larger scope of services. For instance, tertiary care, we will take a long time to set up the kind of tertiary care which is required. To cater to the needs of our urban poor, but we do not have the resources or the time, or it may not even be feasible when we have at hand a huge setup of private players. But again, how to enter into a relationship with them which is a win-win for both, that again is a challenge. So we don't want to end up kind of totally becoming dependent on them, so that tomorrow we can be held to ransom. On the other hand, to find a way as to how to engage with them in a fruitful manner. We are, I mean, the state is exploring various, but we have taken cognizance of that fact that this is an important field in which we have to go out and work with them. Then, only 2, okay, I'll just go quickly. Regulation of private sector, and again, that's an issue. The number of quacks and unqualified practitioners, they abound in urban areas. Again, ways and means to tackle with them. Making healthcare more inclusive, that is how to bring in the poor and the urban poor into our ambit, and also the the vulnerable, because poverty is not the only criteria for vulnerability. So defining poor and vulnerable, identifying them, making their access easy, taking care of out-of-pocket spending, and bringing secondary and tertiary care within reach. These are the basic issues the government is working on. So this I'll not go into it. Just one thing here, when we talk of, these are the geographical areas. The Government of India only talks of slums. So we have to remember that unauthorized colonies, Jogi Jhopdi clusters, clusters, resettlement colonies, urbanized villages, all these are the areas where they should be a part of the, where the thrust is, not just the slums, because they are equally vulnerable. This we are all aware of. These are not geographically vulnerable. I mean, they are not actually living in, they may not be living in what we just saw, the slum or the JJ cluster, but these are the people who may be spread out in small, individually or in small clusters, but they are equally vulnerable, and we have to make concerted effort to bring them in the loop. Then some of the initiatives that the government, some of the ways we can address this is the Mohalla clinics. That is again to take the primary health care right on the doorstep of the most vulnerable of the society. These are small centers are being opened, manned by a physician and a ANM and with the diagnostic services, and they are right in the heart of the slums, near the slums or right into the slums. So 100 such are being piloted right now. The state ultimately plans to cover the entire, the government ultimately plans to cover the entire state. Provision of free drugs, provision of free diagnostics through outsourcing, through actually setting up more MRIs and CT scan centers. Then raising the limits of entitlements. Supposing there was 1 lakh cap earlier, it has been raised to 3 lakhs now for certain social, the healthcare entitlements. Then health insurance is being looked at with great, we have made considerable progress into rolling out insurance package that again has its own challenges, but we are working on that. Secondary and tertiary care, for instance, state has already set up the dialysis units which are working. They are soon to be expanded to provide free, tertiary care services. Other areas are also being explored into. Then increasing the participation and grievance redressal mechanisms. Like there is a Dawai app where a person can actually just log in and say this medicine has not been provided to me. I'm here in this hospital, which goes directly to the MS. It is being monitored at the highest level. PGMS, we all know, it must be operational in many other urban states. And patient satisfaction assessment. There are definite ways, in some of them we have already started. Now another big challenge, and I won't take more than 15-20 seconds now, this is setting up of community processes. This again is a big challenge. It is a much easier, not easy anywhere to involve community, but relatively easier in a rural setting. Here it is much more difficult. We do not have the conventional, the community-based structures which can help us and help us to work. So for health care implementers, it becomes very difficult to go out and engage with the community and come up with something effective like Mahila Arogya Samitis. As far as Ashas are concerned, yes, we have 5,000 odd Ashas in Delhi. They are already working, and we had certain customizations done for urban settings which are proving. Our Asha started around 6 to 8 years, around 8 years ago, before the urban Ashas have been rolled out by Government of India now. And that's all. These are, I'm not saying this is the exhaustive list of the challenges we face in urban areas, but these are some of the things which, while working, we face this and how we are trying to address them. Now I would ask Samantha to invite the speakers to